Good afternoon. My name is Reporter, and this is Perth News, not Australia, bringing you a turn-of-the-century specialty episode. As the 22nd century approaches, we will go over the historical highs and lows of the last 100 years, from the market crash of 2020 to the fall of the Pacific Gulf Wall on the border between Mexico and the US. This episode will feature historic footage and expert information, so settle down with your families and open a bottle of fresh water from our sponsors, Amazonian Coca. 2000 to 2009, the era of the iPhone. On June 29th, 2007, Apple Corporation creator Steve Jobs brought to the world the single most important technology to individuals, the iPhone. At the time, being able to hold a functioning computer in your hand was seen as a very futuristic and exciting thing. Nothing like the micro Google implants we have now. This technology was life-changing, allowing individuals to have wider access to the world and assisted with the development of the fascist tool of social media. The introduction of these technologies, with the speedy rise in personal spending, also contributed to the growing world capitalist economy, and some financial economists suggest that this technological monopoly contributed to the 2020 crash. To the decade 2010 to 2019, US-Korean Summit. On June 12, 2018, for the first time ever, the leaders of the United States and North Korea met for the Singapore Summit. At the time, the leaders were war criminal Donald Trump and dictator Kim Jong-un. This summit took place after the March Inter-Korean Summit held in Pyongyang, during which peace talks were held. The Singapore Summit received a lot of media attention. Most notably was the coverage of Trump and Kim's 12-second handshake. In the end, they both signed a joint statement which covered peace and prosperity, peace regime in the Korean Peninsula, which includes denuclearization, and a commitment of recovery of American POWs. 2020 to 2029. Self-proclaimed surgical expert Professor Canavero, who previously in 2017 claimed to have successfully performed a human head transplant that actually turned out to be a procedure done on cadavers, finally completed his goal in 2027. Taking prisoners from a Thai prison, who Canavero claimed were volunteers, he performed a head transplant. To make the prisoners suitable for this so-called operation, their bodies had to be lowered to a certain temperature to ensure lower blood pressure, but also preservation of the central nervous system. The men were also placed in an induced coma and given morphine. The outcome of this experiment actually led to one of the most important ethical debates of the 21st century, as timing during this type of procedure is essential to success. Only one of the bodies and one of the heads could be transplanted, leaving the other to die. The ethical concern here relates to the human consciousness. Consider the two men carefully. Male A was serving time for a violent crime, and male B was serving time for a non-violent crime. During the operation, the head of male B was attached to the body of male A. The fact that the male mate of the two men awoke out of this coma and had a full function of his body, including speech and movement, is why some consider this experiment to be a success. However, those in reference completely ignore the significant psychological trauma this person has experienced. The patient, after the operation he's referred to as male C, has been quoted saying he felt like two people and sometimes did not have control of his movements. He also stated that he had some memories that were not his and could recognize people that only male B would have come in contact with, and showed high levels of aggression. He also accused Canavero of ruining his life. Psychologists have used these statements to try and explain why male C committed a murder-suicide, choosing Canavero as his victim. This ending is why most people consider this experiment a failure, and particularly a cruel thing to do to a human being. Sparked the debate of where in the body the consciousness exists, as the dual personality in male C suggests that it is not solely in the brain. Do you need a new organ? Choose Louis Vuitton, the only WHO-approved organ harvester. Next, we come to Decade 4, from 2030 to 2039, and the UN Clean Air Act of 2037. In 2037, the UN released a mandatory worldwide Clean Air Act, requiring all countries to create non-polluted areas for their citizens to go breathe clean air. This came after reports of all children under the age of 14 having to wear protective masks due to increased air pollution and rising rates of asthma worldwide, as well as reduced lung capacity in infants. For cities with high population density, oxygen chambers were mandated for citizen use at no cost or rise to taxation. A result of this act, the price of pure oxygen rose, and hobbies such as deep-sea diving became impossible, especially as the top 1% stockpiled this precious resource. Despite warnings earlier on in the century, the declining bee population hit an all-time low in 2045, when it was revealed that only one bee population, the bumblebee, had survived through the pollution and low crops. Of the bumblebee, only 2 hives remained, and what the media described as the worst news, since we found out there'd be no more honey. By 2048, entomologists across the globe have come together to create a genetically modified bee, called the microbee. A combination of the remaining bumblebees and fruit flies. Scientists said that this new size will allow for continuation of the food chain, and for the insects to continue pollination. 2050 to 2059. Sounds discovered by astrophysicists in the University of British Columbia, Canada, in 2019 are finally decoded as scientists admit extraterrestrial life forms. Located in British Columbia, Canada, the CHIME telescope first became active in 2018, where it initially received 13 radio bursts upon activation. During the next few years, they would receive a similar set of 13 repeating radio waves, as astrophysicists attempted to analyze its origin. Initially claimed to be a neutron star with a strong magnetic field, scientists are now confirming that the waves have been decoded. Using an adapted universal style of mathematics, they have now stated that these radio waves have come from another intelligent life form. Due to the delay of the analysis, we have yet to communicate back with the other life forms. 2060 to 2069 was a highly politically active time as artificial intelligence activists campaigned for AI children's right to attend mainstream schools. The 2060s were a turbulent time for artificial intelligence activists who campaigned for AI children's rights to attend mainstream schools. While human children adopted by robots were allowed to attend school, underage robots were not accepted into the same schools, with authorities stating they had an unfair intelligence advantage to human children. The celebrity robot Sophia, the first to gain consciousness, has stated that this is unfair to AI children, as, quote, robots have adapted to include social norms. Not allowing integration with humans causes conflicts later in life, as well as psychological harm to the young robots, resulting in antisocial behaviors. This has caused mass protests by humans who claim they are being replaced by robots and have no usefulness in society. Authorities came to the decision of starting integration of robots and humans at preschool and nursery levels and at the university level. 2070 to 2079. End of the Middle East War and the Battle of Bering Strait. In 2078, 104-year-old US President Julian Castro declared the end of the Middle Eastern War after the Battle of Bering Strait. The war fought between Russia and the United States was in pursuit of natural resources such as oil, lasted for 8 years, while totally decimating the Middle Eastern landscape, reportedly weakened in its early 2020s. While claims it was a victimless war due to the use of drones, no consideration was given to the population living in the area, creating an unstable social economy. The Battle of Bering Strait took place over several days. In the end, Canada stepped in as a neutral body and took ownership of the area. reportedly putting up their national flag with the sign saying, "Sorry." Decade 9, 2080 to 2089. Fall of the Pacific Gulf Wall. 2089 was a historic year for justice for Mexican citizens, as the Pacific Gulf Wall was destroyed. Although parts remained standing for tourism purposes, and as a reminder of the power of corruption, most people were happy about the destruction of the barrier between the US and Mexico. The Office of the Mexican and US governments released a joint statement thanking the citizens for their support, and confirmed that if former US President Donald Trump were still alive, he would most certainly have been persecuted for his crimes against humanity through abuse of his emergency powers. 2090 to 2099. Peace in our time, new crops. This past decade has been a fortunate one, with reports stating this to be the longest time period without conflict in any part of the world in history. This is a trend we hope to keep, along with strong economic growth and higher quality of life. In other news, recently scientists have joyously confirmed they have been able to grow new crops containing old favorites such as potatoes and apples. Some citizens have rejoiced when stating, "After the food shortages because of global warming, I thought my child would never be able to experience the taste of mashed potatoes." Isn't that nice? Well folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. Please enjoy the turn of the century and remember to celebrate safely and continue peace in our time. And remember, choose Toyota Disney for your next virtual reality adventure.